Age of Empires 4 has just come out, and with it we get 8 full-featured factions to dive in on, each one with their own unique mechanics, soundtrack, aesthetics, and even some engaging campaigns for a few of them. In this video today, we'll be covering the 7th in our series by talking about the Mongols, a faction that plays differently than every other civ in the game. With the ability to ensure a massive trade economy and the most adaptable style of play, the Mongols are definitely a strong, if not difficult, faction to master. I've covered this in my ranking guide to help give you an overview of each faction, which you can find linked in the upper right corner. The way this video is structured, we'll be going over a general overview of the faction, discuss the unique units, go into the technology specific to the civilization, talk about each landmark through the ages, quickly go over the navy, and close the video out talking about army compositions, or at least just what units thrive, and a general build order for you. You can quickly navigate to each topic mentioned by using the chapters linked in both the timeline and the description. If you'd like to see the other guides, they'll be linked at the end of this video to my playlist that will have each guide as I create it, as well as in the pinned comment below. And if this is the first time on my channel, the way I like to do things is upfront the information within, so you can decide to stick around and hear me out on my explanations or what have you. So with that being said, the Mongols are a faction that is about flexibility and mobility. You see that in the first few seconds of starting a game with them, as their town center is all packed up, needing to be placed. And this colors the tone of the game for this civilization. I won't lie to you, the Mongols are a hard faction to play at first, but once you get into some of the benefits of playing them, you realize that it's just a matter of breaking the mold of the standard Age of Empires format. Mongols start out with a full 200 population, so you don't need to make houses. You just need to worry about teching and production. That's such a huge amount of micro out of your headspace. And from there, it's about learning how to monopolize certain resources to get a massive trade economy set up. Honestly, if the Mongols can establish and secure a trade economy, they are nigh unbeatable just because of the sheer amount of resources they can tap into. Couple all of this with very strong, highly mobile unit choices such as the Mangudai and First Age Horsemen, the Mongols have a great amount of adaptability, not unlike their actual historical counterparts, enabling you to flex into whatever unit is necessary to counter your enemy. It's worth noting that even though the Mangudai are amazing horse archers, they really aren't that incredible, and outside of the Yam speed aura, which we'll get into, there's no real bonus to cavalry with the Mongols like you might expect. So instead, it's all about establishing a crazy economic ramp and crushing your opponent by hard countering their unit choices as they make them. So if that's all you wanted to know, feel free to head on out. But before you do, don't forget to comment, like, or subscribe to the channel. Each one of those things helps out in varying degrees, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. Let's get started here on our Mongol Civilization guide. So let's start off by going into a quick overview of the Mongolians, not unlike the one we just talked about, but a little bit more in depth. And this is an interesting faction because it's going to play unlike every other civilization in the game. And there's two big things that make it just wild right out the gate. Number one, they have no population to worry about. They start with max pop. So they have 200 population. You never have to build houses. It's actually a really huge boon because you don't have to spend as much time microing out building houses. You don't have to worry about forgetting about it and getting pop blocked, all sorts of stuff. And that actually, once you wrap your head around removing that from your initial build order, it frees you up to do a lot more stuff. And it's kind of jarring at first, but it's a huge boon. In addition, they have these things called sacred uvus, and they work twofold. In one, they're going to passively produce stone for you. Villagers cannot gather stone for the Mongolians. They only get it from their uvus or from an advanced 4th age market research that enables them to trade stone. So it's a really, really wild way to do it. And in addition, these uvus give you access, if buildings are placed within their aura, it gives you access to special technologies and the ability to double produce units. So this idea of aggression that the game states that the Mongolians are really big on stems from the Uvu's ability to double produce not just villagers, but spearmen, horsemen, everything. So this gives you a lot of really strong early Age 1 horseman play. something that the Mongolians thrive at. You can pop out horsemen in droves in the first age if you so wish, or if you want to jump into the second age and go heavy into spearmen and archers, if they're placed within an uvu, you have the double production option. So it's a really, really cool mechanic. In addition to that, this early aggression is also lent a boon, or a bonus, I have said boon like 40 times already, in the ability that if you plunder or ignite a enemy building, you are granted 50 food and 50 gold. So you can use these horsemen to do some early harass and get that benefit. So there's a lot of really cool things that you get from just that uvu and just that ability to set up a lot of really early aggression. Now, outside of that, and what has become actually more standard fare for Mongolian play in a lot of the competitive brackets, is what's called the Silk Road. The Mongolians have a disgusting ability to set up a massive trade economy. And the way that this works is Mongolian traders will bring gold back, just like every other trader does. But as they bring in more and more, and you increase the amount of traders, you get more and more stuff. So for 3 traders, you get 10% food. But for 5, you get now food and wood. For 7, you get food, wood, and gold. And then 9, after you get the special research, you get food, wood, gold, stone, everything. So as you kind of progress your trade economy, it itself ramps and gets better and better. So we'll go into that too in the unique text portion and go into kind of showing exactly how that's going to work for you. But those things that work in conjunction, that ability to be extremely aggressive militarily and to have this really strong trade economy, are very, very huge. And on top of it, the mobility of the faction itself is massive, because you can uproot any building and just move it somewhere else, except for, like, I think outposts is like one of the only things that you cannot move. So you place it, you can just simply pack it back up and move it. So this ability to kind of adapt and move around the battlefield is really the crux of the Mongolians. You're not going to be spending a bunch of time making super unique units that are going to crack the back of your enemy. In fact, you're going to be spending a lot of time building your economy, watch what your enemy makes, and then you're going to be responding in kind. Very similar to how the Mongolians conquered a lot of their enemies in our own history, right? So that kind of sets you up with the initial groundwork here of the Mongolians, and they are a very difficult faction to kind of wrap your brain around. But once you do, like I've said, you're going to be able to kind of go off to the races with them, with getting access to a lot of those early horsemen, their Khan, which is super strong, which we'll go into too in the unique unit section. You just have some very fun and very unique units to take advantage of to really tap into the mobility of the Mongolians. Moving into the unique units, let's talk quickly about the entire army of the Mongolians, and for the most part, it's very standard fare. You get your infantry is nothing new or unique. Same thing here with your ranged portion, nothing new or unique. Even too, with your horsemen and your lancers, it's just the standard ones that every other faction gets. The nice thing here is that the Mongolians will get access to the horsemen in the first stage, like I've said, but that's it. You might look at that little Mongolian pop out and it says that they get access to early lancers in the second age. That is not true. That might have been true in an earlier version of the game, but that is no longer a part of Age of Empires in the current iteration. You can see right here, if we go down into, the table's up here. The third age is when we get access to the Lancer. So just to kind of show that off really quick. But the 3 things that they do have that is unique are the Khan, the Mangudai, and the Traction Trebuchet. So the Traction Trebuchet is a different counterweight trebuchet. It has less health, it does less damage, but it moves faster. Its total amount of resources needed to produce is 200 resources cheaper, and it can also do a faster amount of damage in the sense that it has a faster attack speed. It also has a lower range that's worth noting, and its damage profile is 300 total damage versus a building, versus the counterweight Treb, which does 450 damage. So there are some trade-offs, right? When it comes to health, when it comes to damage, when it comes to the range, but you are gaining speed, attack speed, and the ability to produce these things at a discounted rate. And it fits the overall theme of the army, right? Being adaptable, being mobile. There it is right there with the Traction Trebuchet. The other unique unit is the Mangudai. Now the Mangudai are one of 3 quote-unquote horse archers. We have the horse archer that the Rus can use, and the camel archer that the Abbasids have access to, and then here the Mangudai. What's interesting about the Mangudai is that they have got a low range of 3.5. That is the lowest range of all of the archers on horseback, or well, mounted, I guess is a better way of putting this. And in addition, their damage per second is not amazing. It's 8 damage per second for the elite level unupgraded, right? No other blacksmith upgrades and no Shia longbow. But if we compare that to a horse archer's DPS is 7, so it's not that much better. Where their big benefit comes in is the fact that they can shoot while moving. So this makes the Mangudai very, again, adaptable and mobile. They can do a lot of damage on the run. The unfortunate thing, though, is that they don't get any bonus versus light infantry that, say, the camel archer do, and they are not really necessarily, I guess, as long-term effective as, I guess, by comparison to the horse archer. The horse archer is only 120 total resources, and that's wood and food, versus the Mangudai cost 120 food and 40 gold. So it's a little bit more expensive. And to really get the most value of the Mangudai, you have to get all of the upgrades in the blacksmith, as well as the Shia longbow upgrade, to really get them to pour on some damage. So I think it kind of places them in a weird spot in a lot of people's Mongolian play, that they actually don't use the horse archers very much, which is unfortunate. But the last unit here is the Khan, and the Khan is quite awesome. He's going to replace your scout when you start off, and he's effectively the leader of your army and your faction as a whole. You can always see him on the left side of the screen over here. And every time you progress through the age, he will automatically upgrade to that respective age's, hardened, elite, whatever it is, right? And if he dies, he will respawn at a town center after 2 minutes. But what this guy's real big benefit to your army is that adaptability. He's got 3 arrows he can take advantage of. The maneuver arrow, which is going to increase everyone's movement speed by 0.5 tiles for 5 seconds, which is quite nice. And then attack speed, which is going to increase the ranged unit attack speed. So keep that in mind, not any of your melee units or any of your melee units, period. By 50%, and then lastly the defense arrow, which increases armor by 3. So you might be thinking, hey, I'm attacking my enemy. My enemy has some springalds and some trebuchets in the backline, and I really got to get up in that cookie jar. Well, boom, I'm going to pop the maneuver arrow, and I'm going to use my horsemen or my men-at-arms to just blitz for it and start burning those things down. Or I need a lot of crossbowmen to shoot down some heavy knights. Well, I'm going to use my attack speed arrow and help bring those knights down. Then lastly, maybe I'm in a sustained combat and I need that heavy defensibility. Well, boom, defensive arrow is going to allow me to increase that sustain for the long fight. And each one of these shares a 90-second cooldown. So you can see the big aura around. I'm going to pop this button. And boom, now everyone gets 3 armor. As we click over here, we can see that it's right there. Armor increased by 3. And that lasts for a very short amount of time, but it's just enough to kind of tip the balance. Also, the last ability that he gets is the Scouting Falcon. Releases a falcon that provides vision in the area for 30 seconds. You can just kind of pop these up and then hold and sight on maybe a crossing, a specific resource, whatever it is. It just is a chance to give you some additional eyes on the battlefield. And your scouts also get access to that. So it's not just relegated to the Khan itself. And he will regenerate his health. He's also going to fire while moving. He gets stronger and more healthy. He gets higher health and defensibility as the ages progress. So he's a really awesome little increase in maneuverability as well as adaptability for your army. So now we've gone into some of these unique units, let's talk about how the technologies can really make these units come alive, because it's not the units themselves that are great for the Mongolians, it's the ability to produce mass amounts of them. And what better way to talk about the unique technology for the Mongolians than talking about the Uvu, the central portion of their civilization. So you have to build this in the early portions of the game, right when you get started, because it is responsible for producing stone for you. Stone will help you out in a lot of special ways. But the biggest thing too is that it generates this aura around it. And any building you place within this aura gets access to either special technologies or the ability to double produce units. So taking a look at the Uvu itself, let's look at some of the technologies that come with it. So we get this one, Whistling Arrows, increases the Khan's signal arrow duration by 5 seconds and range by 2 tiles. Increases the raid income for igniting buildings to 100 food and gold from its original 50. And again, you just simply need to light a building on fire to get the passive bonus that all Mongolians have. Increases the torch damage of all infantry and cavalry. This one's quite nice for trying to torch down any siege engines and such. Stone Bounty adds 75 stone to the raid income for igniting a building, making it even better. And then lastly, here's Superior Mobility. Packed buildings move and unpack 50% faster. So with that, you can see all these cost food, gold, and this one costs wood and gold. But if I move over to this little menu, I can see that these now cost stone in addition to food and gold or what have you. And it will basically be the same technology, but a little more improved. So take a look at this. Whistling Arrow increases the con signal arrow duration by 7 seconds and range by 3 tiles. If Whistling Arrow has already been researched, increase the signal arrow duration by 2 seconds and range by 1 tile. So let's look at these two side by side. So this is 7 seconds and 3 tiles, and this is 5 seconds and 2 tiles. So if I were to choose the Whistling Arrow technology first and then choose Whistling Arrow last, it would just simply give me the same benefit had I were to just do the improved one first. So again, just to really quickly recap, see how it says here, if it's already been researched, increase the signal arrow duration by 2 and range by 1. And if that's already there, it's 5 and 1. So that's, again, 7 and 3, what that bonus is by just having it improved. So you can bypass having to do all these technologies by going with the improved route, which is the base technology plus some additional bonuses. It just depends on where you are in your production line and what you'd like to do. So keep that in mind, because the UVU will also give you access to a lot of other technologies as we jump over here to the blacksmith. So the blacksmith, you can see everything for the most part standard fare, but there's something combined into the blacksmith that is different. The blacksmith and the university are slapped together for the Mongolians. They get access to what they would get normally from a university just down here. Biology, elite army tactics, chemistry, and incendiary arrows. They don't get geometry and court architects. That is barred to this civilization. So you can get access to all these things and go about your normal business, or get improved versions of them and just simply bypass their standard version if you can here. So take, for example, biology increases the health of all cav by 30% versus the standard version is just 20. So you can bypass it and do this if you so wish. So this is how that UVU, my old UVU was right here and it would have been in range to that, so I could have used it if I so wish. So this is how that UVU really can increase your production and your research, and we're going to get into that when we talk about the archery range in just a little bit. But the outpost here is also another thing that's unique to the Mongolians because it's cheaper. It's 70 wood to produce an outpost, which is nice and all, but it has this huge aura you can see around it right here, right? And it by default will give this, speed of the yam. Cavalry and traders near an outpost get 15% speed for 20 seconds. Now you can research an actual yam network here. Yam network right there, speed increased by 15%. Because I have this, it's already researched, or else I'd show you the actual icon. So this means everything will get a speed of 15%. And you just overlap these auras, so anything coming in and out of these auras will constantly have that speed increase, because that speed increase lasts for a little bit of time afterward, which is very, very nice. You can see they're going to still glow after they've moved out of that aura. The yam speed is still there. I think it's like 15-20 seconds that it stays on, and then it'll eventually just kind of dissipate. So it's a very huge bonus. It keeps you very mobile because that's the name of the game for the Mongolians. Moving over here into the archery range, we get the Siha longbows, or bow limbs. This increases the range damage of Mangudai and the Khan by 1, so it gives them a little bit more punching power. But you'll notice too that this building over here is in range of this, giving it that increase to its production, right? So I can click this button, and I can click this one over here. So my not in range barracks is going to produce a single man-at-arms, versus this one is going to cost me now some stone, and I'll produce a man-at-arms. So it's a great way to get a huge ramp on your army quickly. And for the most part, it'll make it at the exact same speed right here, right? See, 22 seconds or 22 seconds. Here's my 2, and here's my 3rd. So it's a great way to get very, very huge armies on the table, easily to counter your opponent based off of whatever they do. Over here into our siege workshop, we get the standard amount of improvements in research, but we then get the additional Mongolian ones that will increase certain things, right? So the Siege Workshop, or the Siege Works here, increases the health of siege engines by 20% and their range number by 3, but we can improve that up to 30% and 4, so an even further bonus. The big one here is, of course, going to be Greased Axles, which increases the movement speed of siege engines by 30%, which is huge. And also the roller shutter triggers, which is going to increase the weapon range of springalds by 3 and reduce their reload time by a nice 35%. So a lot of really awesome technology. It's different, right, than the Delhi Sultanate and the Abbasids, which have super unique ones. This is simply the base ones, but improved depending upon where they're built. Moving over here into the dock, we get Piracy, which gains 50 wood and 50 gold when sinking an enemy ship, which is a cool little ability here. And then 7, we can jump over to the party, not the party tent, the prayer tent. And you can see that we get monastic shrines. Monastic monasteries allow improved production in their districts, even without an uvu. So we can click this, and this will allow for improved production, much like an uvu would, just doesn't have to actually have an uvu there. So we can make our shamans without having to be within that range of an uvu, which is cool. And you get your improved researches as well. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is the market. And the market is, well, second to last thing. There's another thing too. The market allows you to buy, sell, and trade, as you can see. And also we get this special one called Stone Commerce. This is the only way to get stone outside of your uvu for the Mongolians by trading it. So this having 9 or more active traders causes them to supply stone as well as gold. So let's wait for one of these traders to hit. And you'll see if we click on one, he's bringing us 5 food, 5 wood, and 57 gold. That, of course, is all dependent upon the route itself, and it also is dependent upon the total number of traders you've got. So if you look at the value that he's bringing in, it's 57, right? So that 10% of 57 is 5. And if you have got 3 traders active, they'll bring in the amount of gold they're going to bring, and then 10% of that number as food as well. So if it was 57, it would be 57 gold and 5 food. But then after you get 5 traders, that expands up to food and wood. So again, we're seeing right there. Oh, where is this guy? There you go. Food and wood is coming in. So that is going to give us a further increase to our resources. Once you hit 7, it's food, wood, and gold, so you get an even further increase upon your gold income coming in, which is nice. And then lastly, 9 traders allows for stone to be brought in with your traders if you have this researched stone commerce, which is quite nice. And I can use this to increase it even further with stone as well as gold. But the biggest boon too is also being able to double produce your traders. So if you want to jump to that 9 trader cap and get them down here, you just simply put it in the range of an uvu and go to town, especially because one of their landmarks is a market. So you can get a trade economy set up quickly. And now the true last thing I wanted to do is wherever you make this market and decide, you know what, I want to go further away. Well, I'm going to press T. I'm going to make my market, pack it up, and move it back over here to increase the distance. Every single building here, as you can see, except for the outpost, can be packed up, just like this. And it allows me to move my entire base if I so wish. So that is a very nice little, again, nod to the mobility of the Mongolians. Okay, I lied. There is one truly last thing. Their wonder costs 1,000 more wood, food, and gold, but it costs 0 stone. So that kind of offsets it and allows you to make that wonder, I guess, a little bit easier, but that's just kind of worth noting in this section. So let's now move into some landmarks throughout the ages. Looking at our first set of landmarks as we go from the first age to the second age, we've got the deer stones and the silver tree. So the deer stones here are a military landmark that when set up, deer stones provide the yam speed aura. Remember, this is that same aura that the outposts create. But also when you complete them, it will instantly grant the yam network technology, which is great. Remember, the yam speed aura only applies to cav as well as trading horses, little ponies, but the yam network technology applies to everyone. The silver tree, on the other hand, here acts as a market, can build traders 50% faster and at a 50% reduced gold cost. Honestly, this is going to come down to you and your playstyle. Are you going to go for a hard Mongolian tech, trying to get a lot of trade economy online? Then silver tree is the route you're going to take. And remember, both of these can be packed up and moved if need be. Or are you going for more of an aggressive route, trying to really kind of push your army across the map fast with a lot of outposts everywhere? Well, maybe Deerstones is the route for you. And even then, Deerstones can work in conjunction with a normal market. The silver tree just allows you to get a stronger and faster trade economy set up, well, relatively quick. Personal opinion, I go with the silver tree just because I like to set up that market quickly. And the Deerstones can really be subbed out fast by, say, clicking over here. You can build the YAM network itself and then just make outposts. So it's a nice little ability, but I still think at the end of the day, the reduced cost of your traders is a better boon. Going from the second into the third age, we get 2 more landmarks to choose from with the Kurultai and the Steppe Redoubt. The Kurultai here is a military landmark that when the Khan is nearby, the Kurultai heals all nearby damaged units and provides a 25% damage bonus for 30 seconds. Then with the Steppe Redoubt, it acts as a gur, and gold dropped off at this landmark is increased by 50%. So this will again come down to your playstyle. Are you going very militaristic and extremely aggressive? The Kurultai is really going to help you as a front-facing landmark that's going to heal your units and also give them a good damage bonus. So you kind of would put this closer to your enemy, or maybe at a point where your enemy's been pushing you a lot to give you a little added punch back into them, or just a place to heal your units, whatever you so wish. Now the Steppe Redoubt is my personal preference because I think that the ability to just get a disgusting amount of gold is so strong with it. So what this does, obviously, acts as a gur, so it's a drop-off point for all resources. But again, the gold dropped off here is increased by 50%. You'd place this right next to a gold vein, your guys would go ahead and produce it, and then you would just have a ton of villagers mining the gold vein right next to the Steppe Redoubt. I just think it's a really strong landmark, and it fits the way that I personally like to play the Mongolians. For our last set of landmarks into the Imperial 4th Age, we've got the Khaganate Palace and the White Stupa. So the Khaganate Palace here spawns a cavalry army of horsemen, Mangudai, or lancers every 90 seconds. What does that mean? Well, it's going to spawn either 8 horsemen, 6 Mangudai, or 4 lancers. It's totally random. It's going to do one of those. You don't get to choose. And when you place this, it'll immediately start producing it. You'll see a little timer. It shows you 90 seconds. If you select the building, you'll be able to see in the build queue right here, like you would if you queued up a unit, it would show you either the horseman, the Mangudai, or the lancer, whatever it is. It shows you what's coming out. So an interesting one. And then the other one is the White Stupa here, which acts as an uvu and produces 240 stone per minute without a stone outcropping. So this is nice. It is, again, going to basically act as an uvu. And something we didn't talk about with the uvus is whenever you make a new one, it's going to break down the old one. So this old one's not producing. If I move and make a new one, this one will destroy. So everything in its aura will no longer get its production bonus. The nice thing here is the White Stupa will never deplete, will constantly be giving you 240 stone per minute, and it will give you that uvu bonus to everything around it. So you can see I'm going to grant everything. It's going to get a bonus wherever it goes. So my opinion, I like the White Stupa here because it's a reliable, consistent stone income. But another thing to consider is I have seen very few games where the Mongolians are being played where they actually progress to the 4th age. Usually you win by the 3rd age, and that's just from my anecdotal experience here. The Khaganate Palace is a little too random for me, and I find that unless I'm teching really hard into horsemen or lancers or Mangudai, it's going to be a pretty useless landmark to me. The White Stupa is a little bit more of a come-all landmark that applies to more of the facets of gameplay, in my personal opinion. So go with whichever one really is going to fit the gameplay that you're going with. My vote is always going to be for the Stupa over the Palace, though. Moving into the Navy for the Mongolians, we get a very interesting set of ships here. So starting off with the light junk, we have the highest DPS archer ship in the game. And of course, the Hulk is not an archer ship, it's considered an attack ship. But this guy has a massive 31 DPS on this because his attack speed is so quick at 0.95 a second. I'm sorry, 0.95 seconds. But he gets 3 burst attacks and 10 arrows, so you can see, or 10 damage arrows, so you can see this thing can actually shoot very quickly. The Chinese have a heavier armored junk that shoots a little bit slower and with, I think, less of a burst attack. So while this thing isn't going to be able to go toe-to-toe with other archer ships because it has such a low amount of armor, if you use these things in mass, they can really do a ton of damage. Moving here into the attack ship, we get another very interesting and pretty decently strong ship here. It also has the highest DPS of any other attack ship, and it's because its ballistas do a considerable amount of damage. 120 damage, meaning they do 20 damage more than the dreaded French Hulk. That's massive. Of course, the difference is here that it's going to take a 0.55 longer to shoot with a 4.5 second attack speed. Now, if you've not seen my other videos where I talk about this, you really want to do the spin to win on this, where you see he's going to take a shot. There'll be a little bar that pops up that shows the reloading, but we can kind of counteract that by just showing your other broadside to your destination you're shooting at. This way, you kind of just keep the thing shooting, bypassing that 4.5 second attack speed, quote-unquote gate. So a massive little attack ship here, and it also is quite durable with 900 health versus the Hulk at 1000. But now the big Betty here, right? The Bao Xuan. This is the heaviest ship in the game. It has the highest health. It doesn't have the most DPS because it's a very slow speed here at 6.5. Let's hover over this. But it has the most health, the most armor. It's very slow, but it's just a tanky, lumbersome juggernaut. And it has a lot of damage per shot. And that damage also does a lot of damage versus buildings. So you can see that right there. So we'll go ahead and press G. 4 massive cannons ripping off right there, each one doing 70 damage apiece, which is great. I love the way that kind of kicks off. And for continuity's sake, we again have the piracy naval technology for the Mongolians that increases the food and wood gained when sinking an enemy ship. But that is the quick down and dirty here for the navy of the Mongolians. Now for army composition of the Mongolians, it's really going to be matchup dependent. And I know I say that again for almost every single faction every time I come to this, but it's even more important here too for the Mongolians, since really what you're going to be doing is adapting to the way that your enemy is trying to roll against you. Are they going with a lot of knights? Okay, well now it's time to heavy produce tons of spearmen and crossbowmen to counter that. Hey, are they going with a lot of men-at-arms? Well, you know what? Go with a lot of other men-at-arms and some crossbowmen to counter that, or maybe some knights to punch into them. You have a lot of different tools at your disposal, and the fact that you can then pick and choose how to upgrade your army is really going to come down to a lot of the benefits of playing the Mongolians, right? You can support really well too with spring alts, because your spring alts can be extremely potent with the ability to shoot faster because of your increased range as well from your unique technologies. Also having your trebuchets knock down keeps and walls for you is going to be very important. But the real name of the game here is going to be this Khan, right? And having him being used effectively. So if I wanted to say, get these men-at-arms over here as quickly as possible, let's go ahead and, let me get this guy closer. Even though I'm going to go ahead and do this. Maneuver arrow. And now they're going to just book it, right? They're going to get over there so quickly to start being able to do damage to any kind of siege equipment, anything like that. Even if a pocket of them started to get hit by the enemy, you could still wrap around and get up in the face of any kind of siege equipment. Using this Khan to the best of your ability is going to be one of the strengths of playing as the Mongolians. So even though, you know, you've got lancers and early horsemen and these Mangudai, use your Khan to help really make your army tip the balances in your favor. You can match your enemy toe for toe if you're producing units like, hey, you know, they're going to go men-at-arms, well, so am I. But using this Khan is going to give you that extra stability from the defense arrow or the maneuver arrow that's going to allow you to move around. Using that with your army comp is going to be the biggest thing that's going to work to your advantage. All right, for as far as basic build order goes for the Mongolians, and this is something we covered in my build order basics video, a lot of this is going to be repeated information here. So initially you want to make that town center in between two resources trees and something else. I got lucky here and got trees and gold right next to it, so I can go ahead and have that happening. And you're going to take all of your remaining villagers and put them on wood. This way, while that town center is building, you're generating wood so you can produce more buildings. At the same time that you're doing all this, you want to have one of those 6 villagers make an uvu so you can start getting your stone production online, as well as a place to create a gur and a pasture, because you're going to need to work on some food production, either from berries or from sheep. Sheep can be produced from the pasture, which is always quite nice. And then from here, it's just a matter of producing enough gold to get into the second age, so 200 gold, and then getting enough, or getting a lot of villagers on wood and food, because once you get into the second age, you don't need to worry about gold as much, but you're going to need at least some working income of it. So as I kind of make my way through this, you want to take your Khan and send him out and find a trade post as fast as possible. You aren't like the French, who can see all the trade posts on the map. You have to go and discover it. So by having that Khan go out, you're setting yourself up for the second age, where you can have a market economy and a trade economy get going very quickly. So once you kind of have done that, you'll have your villagers doing their thing. You'll get up to that 400 food, and you'll get up to your 200 gold, and you'll make the decision. You know, are you going to be going very aggressive with the Mongolians? Well, then you want to make sure you're making a stable or a barracks in the first age. I would say probably a stable, so you can make first age horsemen and start doing some poking harass out onto your opponent. In that case, you know, maybe focus less on gold and focus more on wood and food, so that you can make a couple double productions of them, and then get them getting in some harass out there, igniting some buildings, getting the raid bonuses, whatever it is. But once you're ready to progress to the second age, again, choose how you're going to want to do this. Are you going into a heavy trade economy? Well, then go ahead and make the trade outpost. Or are you going to be going into, again, more aggression? Then go with the building that's going to match that, right? The deer stones. So regardless of what you do, you still want to set up outposts in the second age. This is going to help your trade economy or take advantage of the deer stones and the yam speed bonus that you've now just unlocked. So I'm going to assume you went with the market, because that's what I did in this example. So once you've made your market, you want to have your traders immediately start producing and have their waypoint set to that market that they're going to start going to. And in this example, the market is super close, so ideally I would probably move my market back against a corner of the map that is favoring my side, just to increase the range in which my traders are going to work. And if you get 3 double productions of traders, remember, you produce them at a cheaper rate because you are the Mongolians, you're already at 6, right? That puts you 1 below the 3rd tier of the Silk Road. And then you just got to pay for 1 more. And that can be done all very easily within the first minute or 2 of jumping into the second age. But again, make sure your outposts are set up, because those outposts are going to increase your trade economy, because you're going to have the benefit of the yam speed. You kind of just want them leading up to the trade post itself. You can have little gaps if you want. Like I said, there's a 20-second remainder of that buff. You don't have to have it going they don't have to have overlapping circles. This just helps in case one gets destroyed, that they always have some sort of coverage. But getting that set up, getting your trade economy going, getting those outposts built is crucial. And then as far as military infrastructure, in the second age, I like to go with a barracks just so I can get out spearmen, because I'm going to assume I'm getting some sort of probably cavalry rush if I'm playing against the Rus, the French. Or am I going to be playing against longbowmen? Then you know what, maybe I want to go with a stable for horsemen, or maybe even archers, just to do archers against longbowmen. Whatever it is, build that first infrastructure, military infrastructure building, to counter what your opponent probably has under their hood. And then from there, I'd probably make 1 barracks and 2 archery ranges, or 2 archery ranges and 1 barracks. Just again depends upon what's going on. Stables again are going to be very dependent upon what your opponent's making and how you're going to counter into it. But this should get you started into the first and then into the very beginning portions of your second age with your Mongolian playthrough. And at that, it brings our video here to a close. So hopefully this gives you a really good idea of how the Mongolians work, how the Silk Road is such a huge boon for the Mongolians, allowing them to get a massive trade economy going. How you're really going to be playing a game of high adaptability, moving and working alongside what your opponent is building so that you can counter it and destroy it as fast as possible, with the ability to increase your production and getting a lot of boots on the ground quickly because you have the ability to double produce, right? Hey, I'm going to make 2 archery ranges in the range of one of my Ubus. I'm going to be able to pump out 4 archers for the price of 1 and at the same time as 1, which is a little bit of stone production included in that, a little stone resource included. So the benefits of the Mongolians are not as apparent immediately, but once you really look at them and you kind of crack open the other benefits that you get, such as not having to ever worry about population, you can really take this faction, this civilization, and master it and become very devastating. Like I've said before, I don't find many games where you're playing as the Mongolians to jump into the 4th age, because they can get so much economic and military power in that 3rd age that their timing rush can really devastate your enemy before they can actually mount a true offensive against you. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. If you have any suggestions for build orders, any suggestions for maybe landmarks, whatever it is, by all means, let it be known in the comment section below. I like to make sure as much information is disseminated out to the people as possible. And don't forget to comment, like, and or subscribe, all that fun action. But have a good one and take care.